Howdy folks, it's Uncle Bill with Uncle Bill Outdoors. Pretty crummy day out today, so I thought I'd take a moment and go over my kayak. I've been meaning to do this for a few years here, but never really got around to it. And then got to make a shout out to John M.I. Woodsman. He kind of gave me to get me on my butt to get going on this and show you around my kayak and how I set it up for a lot of things that I do. I take it down, just loafing down the river, a lot of river fishing, fishing on small ponds and lakes, and even take it out on Lake Erie quite a bit, and do a lot of kayak camping also. So this kayak suits my needs a lot, and I set it up a little bit different for everything. And I'll take a few minutes, show you around, and show you how I set it up for what I need it for. First, I'll go over it a little bit, show you what kind of modifications I put on it that I thought were good for me. So we'll get to it. And I guess the first thing you notice is this is a Lure 13.5 FeelFree, and it's a pretty heavy kayak. I think goes about 95 pounds without anything on it. Pretty hard to muscle around, so I got this trailer to go on. It's the Malone Micro Sport. Works out really good. It sits on these they call them wings, but I don't know if you can see them under there, but they hold it down really nice and give it a nice smooth ride. Trailer works out great. It goes. I've had it up in Michigan several times. Had it down, all over the place, and down to Columbus and wherever I need to go. And it tows great. Never had any problems with it. So that's the first thing. At the front, really kind of a simple thing, but put this little rope on the handle here. You always need a rope to tie it off, and you want it to be handy so you don't have to dig for it. So I just wrapped it around there and knotted it off, and it stays there all the time in case I need it, and works out pretty good. Next thing is the hatch. I haven't done anything to it, but I like the hatch. It has lots of room in it, and especially for when I go kayak camping, I can fit a lot of stuff in there. Next thing in this, they say this is a cooler, but I don't have any use for making it a cooler. I just use it for storage. And in here I got my depth charts for trolling on Lake Erie, and flashlight, and my do-rag, and I got a little box here to keep my keys and wallet in while I'm out. It's a waterproof box. Got some extra rod leashes and stuff. This box is just a kind of a catch-all box. It's got a little bit of everything in it. Some tools, bug spray, sunscreen, a few band-aids, zip ties, duct tape, whatever I think I might possibly need while I'm out there. Also got some extra rope and various things in there, so that works out good for me. Another thing I did, I put this little piece of PVC on here. Can't know if you can see it very well with a light. I got a selfie stick that holds my phone, and I'm not much on taking videos and stuff while I'm out. I don't have a GoPro or anything like that, but this fits. My selfie stick will fit right down in there, so if I do catch a fish that I want to take a picture of, I can stick my selfie stick up there and give you a good shot of me sitting in the chair, and I can show you my fish that I catch. Just a little something that helps me out. I put this fish finder on here. This is a Hook 4 Chirp. Works good. It's just nothing fancy or anything, and but it does suit my needs. It basically, mostly when I'm out on Lake Erie, I use it, and it shows me if there's fish there and how deep I am and water temperature, and it's got a GPS on it, showed me how fast I'm trolling and stuff. So it's got everything that I need to do to troll for walleyes. So it suits my needs, and it works great on this, the sonar pod. I think everybody's seen that. It's got the transducer is mounted underneath, and it goes right through into the water, and it's real handy. Good place for it. I can see it well. I can reach it, and I have no problems with it. Another thing I did, I put these, the Scotty rod holders mounts on here. Put them right on the track. The only thing about this FeelFree track, I'll show you in a minute, is it doesn't take a standard track mount. So I had to kind of rig something up to make it work with what I had. I didn't want to pay $30 for one little mount that you can only mount one thing on. I'd probably need about 5 or 6 of them. So I got one on this side and put one over here just to do it. I'll show you how I use those here in a little bit when I get things set up. I think everybody knows all about the gravity seat on the FeelFree. To me it's comfortable. I can sit on it out in the lake or down the river for all day long, and you sit and you get a little bit tired anyhow, but in this seat it's pretty good. It works pretty great. It goes up and down. Everybody knows how that works. The only thing I did do it is I took a 1-inch piece of steel and steel bar stock, and I bent it to fit into these, to fit the seat, and I raised the seat up about 1.5 inches. And just that 1.5 inches made a big difference as far as being easier on your back. It works really great, and doesn't cause any problems with the seat itself. And even when I'm going, the seat will fold down a little bit better. So I also mounted my fishing pliers on the strap of the seat. They're just velcroed on there, and so they stay pretty much right there all the time. Never take them off. Use the pockets for fish grips and whatever I need in there. There's a garbage bag. Always need some garbage bags, extra carabiners and whatever. What I did is I made this rod holder out of PVC. It fits down into the stock flush mount rod holders. I didn't like the way they were angled up toward the back anyhow. If you're trolling, you can't see them. You have to keep turning around looking at them. So I just made this. It's 1.25 inch PVC stuck in there. Made the tubes, heated them up, stuck a beer bottle in there, an empty one, of course, and it goes back and forth, and so I can put my rods in any position that I want. Also, the selfie stick that I used in the front up there, I can stick that in here too, and I can get a view of looking like this over the front of the kayak instead of at me. So it works out really good. It's always on there, and like the track system. This is on the back, and it's got these things that slide up and down, but you've got to buy those expensive mounts to go on here that work. They work good, but I mean, for $30, you're gonna spend a lot of money on that. So what I did is I don't know if you can see very well here, but I took small pieces of aluminum, and I cut them to size, and I drilled a hole in them and tapped them so it'll accept a 1/4x20 screw or bolt. And I did have to remove the track, took all the screws out, remove the track, and pried this little rubber end off. It's really hard to get off, but it does come off. Slide these on in there, and then put the rubber end on, and screw the track back down. They work out really good, and a lot cheaper than those mounts. I've got the Yak Attack lever lock anchor trolley on this. It's on the left side. Honestly, I haven't used it very much. I don't anchor a whole lot, but if it has come in handy when I needed it to. You know how they work. It's, you lock this thing down, and then, or you unlock it, you put your anchor rope through there, and you can move the ring up to the front or down to the back, and then lock it into place, and it won't move. So it's a pretty nice setup, and I like the way it fits on the kayak. It's got the keepers here that keep the line from riding up on the boat, and so it helps out a lot. And while I'm here, I just got the FeelFree paddle. Got a 250 centimeter paddle, pretty long, but this is a wide kayak, and I found at first when I had a shorter paddle that as I was paddling, I was bumping the sides of the boat with the paddle. So I got the longer one that'll fit out a little farther, and it solves that problem quite a bit. Solves it a lot. I did get the rudder with this kayak. I think it's almost necessary with this thing. It makes it, it's not only for steering, but it makes it track better. And if I get on a lake and I'm trying to work a bank or something, I can put, I usually have it down, and it just goes down from this rope here. You just pull it, and it goes down into position. But I can, if I'm at work trying to work a bank on a lake, I can get into the wind, and I can set that rudder in a certain position whenever it's needed, and almost float right down the bank just as I want to, facing the bank, or whatever way I want to face, and it works out really good. One thing I've done is I made this bracket. It's out of 3-inch steel, and painted it, but I bent it down so it bolts on here with 4 quarter 20 stainless steel bolts, and I got rubber well nuts through the hull, and it's on there solid, not going to move. But I bent it down, and it comes across, drilled a hole in it, and I welded another piece on the bottom. Let's if you can see it too well, but it comes out here, and drilled another hole so it kind of sandwiches the back of the kayak, and I made it like that so it's for my electric trolling motor. And basically I can take the rudder off, put the motor on. I use the same cables for the rudder, and I use the same thing to steer my trolling motor. So it works out really good. Can change it in about 5 minutes. Can change from rudder to trolling motor. And I'll show you the trolling motor a little bit later here as we go on through. So I got to have my stickers on here. My Buckeye sticker from Ohio State Buckeyes, and my NRS sticker from my PFD, and I got the mystery tackle box, and I can't remember what this one's from, but I should know. And I don't know what this one's from either. I don't know what that is, but I'll have to check that out and see if I can remember what that is. Much it for general going over a little bit. There's a lot of videos about the FeelFree 13.5, and I like the kayaks. Done me well. I've had it for 3 full years, and I'm going on my 4th year, and still good. I haven't had any problems with it whatsoever. No cracks, no fading, no fittings pulling out, no leaks. I even dumped it over up on the Sable River, turned it upside down, and when I got it back, there wasn't any water in the hull whatsoever. So pretty happy with the way it works, and I'll set it up for my river fishing and just going down the river here and show you how I do that. Usually pretty simple setup when I'm going down the river. I don't take too much along. Try to do as little as I can. Only take what I think I'm going to need, and usually isn't too much. Got my rod holder over here with the spin rod on it, and I usually carry one in the back and the rod holder back here. Got a little tackle bag. Got a little thing from Walmart. Just got simple stuff in it. Got a few boxes with you know, a few lures here. You know, got a few small worms, mostly smallmouth stuff, spinners, jigs. You know, just a few things to go in there. Got a little pair of pliers, pair of scissors, whatever I need in front here. So I carry a little cooler back here that just, you know, with the water or drinks or whatever I'm going to have, maybe a sandwich depending on how long I'm going to be out. Usually I go up down the Vermilion River a little bit. I'm not out too long, a few hours, and it's just to get out and do something. So one thing I didn't mention when I was going through the thing is I had these straps on the FeelFree that, I don't know, the way they had them configured, I couldn't figure out how to use them efficiently. So I cut them off, looped them over, and screwed them in so it's just got a loop there, and then I can hook a bungee cord to either side, and works out a lot better. Holds this thing there, and then use it for to hold down other things, and it just makes a lot more sense than what was there before. Another thing that I did that I didn't show you is I made these scupper hole plugs, and might be hard to see, but let me take this bungee cord off. See a little bit better. But they're made out of a PVC fitting, a connector, a 3/4 inch connector, and they got a piece of 3/4 inch PVC, just maybe a 1/4 inch long, stuck down in there. And I got these little, they're actually floats, cork or foam bobbers that I cut the ends off and plugged the centers with silicone. And on the bottom, all I did was take a couple pieces of weed eater line, drilled a couple holes, ran it across, and glued it in, so there's just a crisscross of weed eater line underneath. So the way it works is if the water wants to come in, the cork or the bobber floats up, plugs the hole, and I don't get much water in there. When the water wants to go down, cork goes down, and the water drains out. And it works pretty good. I really like them. I don't have to do anything with them. Just leave them go, and they just work the way they do it. I got 2 here. I've got 2 under the seat, and I've got 2 in the front. The other scupper holes are just plugged with the factory plugs. And you can see I got one up here, one over here, and a couple under the seat. You can't see those, but they work out good, and I just like them better because I don't have to worry about taking them in, putting them out, whatever you got to do with them. It just works out better for me. This is my a little bit more serious fishing setup, I guess. I just carry a couple extra poles, and usually got one in the rod holder on the side, and I'll put 2 or 3 in the back here. Take along my fish net in case I happen to get something a little bit bigger. Pretty much everything else the same. I do, instead of a crate, I got this soft-sided tackle box that works good. I just keep all what I take in here, and these I can change out depending on where I go and what I'm going to fish for. I can, change out the boxes for what I need. And this is what I was talking about with these things. It just makes it a lot easier. I've got this loop on here now. I can just take a small bungee cord and tie this tackle bag down. And one thing, this tackle bag, I mean, it's almost like it was made to fit in here. It goes right in this little indentation with this front pocket, and that I can keep there, and just works out well for me. Pretty much the same as river fishing, just a couple extra poles and a net. This is how I set the kayak up when I go kayak camping. I don't have everything loaded up in here yet, but front hatch has so much room. I mean, it's got, you can see all the way all over in there, but I can fit I can take a tent, sleeping bag, sleeping pad, pillow, extra clothes, my rain gear, just about, almost everything I need for camping, a camping chair, whatever I could fit inside here, never have to worry about doing it. My sleeping bag, my sleeping pad, and some few of the other things will slide all the way down, and they'll slide, halfway down the kayak, and I tie them off on these little eye hooks there so that I don't lose them, and I can just pull them back out when I need them. Pretty much the same thing in the excuse me, storage hatch here. Take a fishing pole along. I always got to have a fishing pole. Pretty much everything else is the same. Don't need the fish finder when I'm kayak camping, but yeah, help comes in handy with GPS once in a while. Big thing is back here. I've got my soft cooler. It's just a Walmart cooler. Almost fits perfect right in there, and I can just hook it right to these little loops that I made, and to keep it in the kayak. And then I bought these boxes. They fit underneath these bungee cords. I'm perfect. They're right here. As I was saying before, I flipped the kayak over on the Sable River, and everything stayed on board. I just had to flip it back over, and everything was fine. I just got one box here that I usually keep all my food in, that I don't need to keep cold. That anything doesn't go in the cooler goes in here. Oil, fish breading, whatever else I might want to take. The bottom one has all my cooking gear in it. My cook stove, my pots and pans, my cups, whatever I need to cook. So it works out just great. So this is how I rig it up for trolling on Lake Erie. Pretty much the front's the same. I do have my battery in the hatch here. It's a 35 amp hour battery. I got it hooked up, and I've got a circuit breaker up underneath there, so 30 amp breaker. I've got another battery that I can hook up to this and run them in parallel, so I got 70 amp hours. If I'm planning on a long day out, I'll take both of them. Just a short day, one usually will do me fine trolling out on the lake. Again, the fish finder does everything I need it to do out on the lake. It shows me that there's fish down there, how deep there is, how fast I'm going. Pretty much that's all I need to know. I've got an Akuma line counter trolling reel. Hooks out. It's an 8.5 foot rod, so it gets it out away from the kayak. Works out really well. generally will only take one rod with me. I mean, I'll generally only use one rod. I'll take another rod with me just in case I run into something, a problem with this one, or if I see another opportunity to catch something else. But generally that's it. Generally I'll run the seat up a little ways, about that height. And this is my Lake Erie box. It's got my snap weights, sinkers, worm harnesses. On this side I got some, a few jigs, terminal tackle, a couple more sinkers, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, anything that I think I might need while I'm out there. And that fits up underneath the seat really well, so it stays out of my way. Of course, I got to take my net when I'm walleye fishing. You can't lip them things, or you end up with a bleeding thumb. So I got to take this with me. It's just I think it's a Wakeman. Yeah, it's a Wakeman. Works out. It does the job. It's not real big, but it's big enough. I've had a 28-inch fish in it, and I didn't have any problems keeping them in there. So it's not a big deal. Of course, one thing you always need when you're out on the lake is got to have the pee bottle. I guess you could go over the side, but then you got to stand up, and you can stand up real easy in this kayak. I have stood on it. I don't like to because I'm at the age where even just standing on a floor is tough for me sometimes, and standing up on a kayak, I don't need to do that. So I stay seated most of the time. Of course, I take my rod holders. I'll take another box in the back here with walleye cranks and deep divers and things that I might use. And I take a pretty good cooler along. Get 6 nice walleyes in there with some ice, and keep them on ice right away, and works out really well. So this is my trolling motor setup. It worked out really good. I got the idea of the bracket from I think it's Dominant One. My battery ran out of memory on my phone, so I had to delete some stuff. So pick up where I left off. But this is my trolling motor setup. This is how it bolts onto that bracket. There's a screw that goes down in here. It's got a nut welded onto the bracket that it just tighten that down and holds it on there. And then this one goes all the way through to the bottom, like the rudder screw does, and screws right to the bottom of that bracket. So it's on there. I mean, it's not going to go anywhere. It's pretty sturdy. The steering bracket, I made this. I cut it out of an old cutting board that I had, and just cut it out, made it so I could squeeze it around the shaft, and yeah, it worked out pretty good. I didn't cut the shaft off the trolling motor. I don't mind it sticking up a little ways. Matter of fact, it's probably helpful if it does when I go to tilt it up. But I just ran the wires out of there, took the head off, and the power outlet is right down in here, so I can just plug the trolling motor into that outlet, and it hooks it up to the battery. So I don't have to worry about, and that stays there. We won't have to worry about anything. But steering on the trolling motor, like I said, it's hooked up with the same as the rudder. It's on the pedals. The one thing I like about these Smart Track pedals is you can move them back and forth really easy, and it doesn't cause any disruption with the steering. The cable stays the same length, so I really like that in these things. But you can see the steering works out one way, and then the other way. Don't need to be too I don't need to do donuts or anything out in the lake. This is plenty. The other thing I made here is this this light pole. I don't know if you can see it too well here. I made this out of PVC. It's got a light at the top, a LED light. I used an old orange dry bag that had a hole in it, so I cut it up, used it for the flag, and I just hooked it into this this thing here so I can take it off and put it back on when I need it. And the power for that runs through this cable, and it plugs into this little port here that I put in, and that's all hooked into the battery in the front. Come around and I'll show you. Let me turn the circuit breaker on, so we got power here. I'll show you what I did with the light setup here. I got the switch panel over here. All right, how well you can see it here. There you go. It's got a voltmeter in it, and it's got two switches, and the volt underneath the voltmeter, pull this little cover down, and it's got two charging ports for my cell phone or whatever I might need to charge. Works out pretty well. But the voltage meter is pretty important because you don't want your battery to run down below a certain voltage. The switches. This switch is for that back light. I don't know how well you can see it. Let me turn that. Let me turn the overhead light off. You can see that a little bit better. Works out. It cost me probably, say, I don't know, $8 to make that whole pole with the wiring and the light and everything. And then also with that switch, I've got the running lights in the front, the green and the red running lights. So if I'm out in the dark with my trolling motor, I'm not sure they're absolutely necessary, but I put them on there so it helps, do as much as I can to stay visible out there, especially in the dark. Turn that switch on, and I've got some deck lights that went on either side, so lights up the deck pretty good. So in case I'm out at night. And so yeah, that's how I got my lights hooked up. Now for my trolling motor, I ran the wires up here, and I got one of them. It's a PWM, pulse width modulator. And instead of having one speed on my trolling motor, I got infinite speeds. And the way I hooked it up is I come around here, and I mounted it to this little plate, and put the PWM is pushed inside the hull, mounted to the other side of this plate. And it's got my knob for my speed control is just this little knob, and then up here I've got the switch, so I have a forward, off, and reverse switch. Now if I go to the forward, this also has an on and off. You can hear it click, and I'll show you here on the back when I turn it up. The motor starts off. I can run it real slow, or I can run it all the way to full speed. Or I can adjust my speed to whatever I need to do depending on what lures I'm running and whatever, or how fast I want to go. I can turn it off, and I can go in reverse the same way. I can go backwards for real slow, full speed. So, and it's supposed to, by using this, it's supposed to save on the battery also. One more thing on the trolling motor that I hooked up is I ran this rope from here. I've got this clam cleat, and I ran the rope underneath the. I usually take the rudder off when I'm not using it, but I'll leave it on there for now. Run this clam cleat underneath these hooks for the bungees, run it around, and it runs up to the top of the trolling motor. So when I pull on the trolling motor, it tilts up, gets out of the way in case I get in shallow water or when I'm launching or whatever, and put it back down again. I just release it, and then it goes back down. So I think that's pretty much all I have. Like I said, it's been a great kayak for me. 3 years of use, and you know, I mean, there's a few dings and scratches and whatever. You can see one right here, but this came from the factory like that, and I was gonna have them send it back, and I thought, gee whiz, you know, it's not hurting anything, and never hurt anything. So basically that's my kayak, and if anybody got any questions about it, let me know. I'll be glad to answer anything, but pretty straightforward. So y'all have a good day, and I'll take my puppy inside and give him some treats and let him take a nap. Y'all have a good day.